Really interesting fight at light heavyweight, Matt. We have South Korea's Un Jung taking on William the Nightmare Knight. And realistically, we're getting ready for multiple William Knight fights. I had to write it down in my notes just so I'd know. We got ready for a fight against Alonzo Menafield in February. Then we got ready for a fight in March. Now we're in April. We got ready for Un Jung to take on Shamil Gamzatov. Now we're here. And these two guys are going to fight each other. And for Alonzo Menafield, well, he got a totally different fight. He looked amazing against Fabio Charant. Can William Knight replicate Alonzo Menafield's success when he takes on Un Jung in a game of musical chairs? I like the fight, and I say this a lot, and a lot of people criticize me for it. Oh, really excited for this one. Yeah, I am, because for Un Jung, this is a guy that started his career off at 1-2, and he's on an amazing 12-fight win streak. He's got a draw his last time out against Sam Alvey. And if you go back and watch that fight, it was really disappointing. And
it was awful.
If you go back, MMA decisions where the media members post their scores, 17 members had it 29-28 for Alvey. 3 had it 28-28, and 1 had it 29-28 for Un Jung. It was a really weird fight where Un Jung was a big favorite in that one, wasn't able to get the win. I mean, if you watch his fights, he's got a really good jab, and it's one thing that I really hammer home, but he's the type of guy that can double it up, triple it up. He can throw the stiff jab, like we make fun, but Trevin Giles throws a really stiff jab. For Un Jung, he sets things up. I'd love it if he threw in combination a little bit more. Now, when we talk friend of the show, former friend of the show, current member of the show, friend of the show, JHK, because in this case, just friend of the show, did an interview with Un Jung over with SCMP MMA, and I know the headline right off the hop was he wants to knock out William Knight. It's a tough ask. I mean, Tafon Chukwe was able to do it, where he probably wasn't expected to do it. At the time, William Knight had already signed the developmental deal with the UFC. He was like a part-time, occasional guest commentator with CFFC, John Morgan, CM Punk, and the boys. Sometimes fingers get lost in those fights. But William Knight was kind of on a rise to success. He gets finished by Tafon Chukwe, and it's not like it was that long ago, a year and 3 months ago. He beats Rocky Edwards. He beats Cody Brundage on Contender Series. The thing that I love, and I remember going back, previewing the fight, we had William Knight stepping in on just weeks' notice to take on Alexa Kammer. Not an easy fight. I mean, Kammer, really hype prospect, really good boxing in his own right. William Knight implemented his own game plan on short notice, made the weight, which, you know, people were worried about, and looked good in that fight. Like, I thought he really proved out. And what do we know about William Knight? To look at him, you think, geez, the guy's a brick shithouse, and he probably packs a punch. And he does. But he's got sneaky wrestling and a good clinch game.
And he's a really cerebral fighter, too. You had mentioned that he does do some commentary work. Most fighters who do that commentary work have great cage IQ, and I do think William Knight is one of those cases. Just, he doesn't have the overall body of work that's really been able to prove that over time. And I do think as he fights in the UFC, to become a little bit more familiar with him, it will start to show. And against Un Jung, this should be a very fun fight. If you go back and kind of take out the Sam Alvey fight, look at what he was able to do to Mike Rodriguez. Look at how good he looked against Hadis Ibrahimov. He's had good wins in the UFC so far, but that Sam Alvey fight was really disappointing because Un Jung, I don't know if he just didn't have a treadmill at his gym. I don't know what happened. It didn't look like the fighter that we had known in those previous 2 fights. It's a little concerning because you look at Un Jung, his last, I would say, impressive fight was the Slow Mike fight, and that was a year and a half ago. Then you look at his last fight 5 months ago. He didn't look that great, so now I'm a little bit concerned. Which version of Un Jung are we going to get? And I understand he had Alvey hurt. He tried to finish him early, but if you're getting tired against a fighter like William Knight, who we know for that great power punching, I just don't think it's going to work out for you. You can get away with the poor cardio and maybe some defensive lapses against a guy like Sam Alvey, and we can see Sam Alvey, his best days are behind him. He's not the best fighter in the world. Having a close fight against Sam Alvey and then jumping into a fight against William Knight, it's just going to be a really tough one. Alvey was able to land clean a lot in that fight. It's not like he was always hitting arms. It wasn't always like Un Jung was being smart at covering up. Alvey was able to land clean shots over and over again. And with William Knight, I was really concerned in that Kammer fight. It's on short notice. We don't really know how good his cardio is. He showed off a pretty good cast tank, and a very impressive one, I guess, just based on where I thought it was going to be. I thought, oh, if Kammer's going to win, he's going to out volume him. He's going to really put it on him with the output and probably tire Knight out. But Knight, like you had mentioned, really good cardio, really smart game planning, and I do think William Knight's a case of a fighter who can make adjustments during the fight. I don't think if you see a fight where he's going out there and just popping out the right hand, trying to knock him out with one punch, he's not going to keep on doing that same plan in round 2 and round 3. He will switch it up. I know we talked about that a little bit with Stipe fighting Francis. Didn't turn out well for him, but fighters who are able to make that round-to-round adjustment, I always think that's a very high-level X factor that we don't often see in fighters who are unranked. And the fact that both these guys are unranked and we still are going to get a very high-level fight between them, I'm really excited for it.
The weird thing about this one for Un Jung, I talked about it. I mean, I like his boxing. He's not the biggest kicker. Could we see some more kicks out of William Knight? I definitely think we will. But for Un Jung, very good takedown defense. And that's one of those things I think it could play a factor in this. And if you go back and look at that first run as he turned pro, he went 1-2. One of his losses is to Rocky Martinez. That's a UFC heavyweight. How crazy is that?
That's wild.
For William Knight, a guy that trains out of Thornton Martial Arts. Have you heard of him? I don't know if you have, but if you go to his Instagram, one of the weirdest things, because you're not going to find any training tape at all, it's just strength and conditioning drills. And it's crazy to see a guy doing a lot of lifts and cardio. So in a fight like this, for Un Jung, much more technical puncher. That usually lends credence to a pick. Very, very good takedown defense as well. So, Matt, if we have a look at the odds for this one, Un Jung is the favorite, albeit slightly. He opened at, just again, a -130. He's now -138. The line's popped up a little bit. For William Knight, open to -110. He's now at a +114. And if we look over on Tapology, Matt, 55% of voters that have Jung, 62% by knockout. The other 45% that have William Knight, 65% by knockout. The fans are predicting a finish. The gamblers are going with Un Jung. The fans are going with Un Jung. Matt, who are you going with?
If I could just predict that this fight will end before the end of the 15 minutes, that's what I would do. Because I do agree. I think this fight has finish all over it. I think Un Jung has more than enough power that if he can catch William Knight overextending himself, he will be able to hurt him. I just think William Knight, he has the pressure. He has the wrestling defense and offense. And that's the really important thing. For Jung, like you had mentioned, he has the wrestling defense. He's not going to be going for a lot of takedowns in this fight. And even if he does, I do think William Knight, just the physicality of him, will be able to defend a few of those takedowns from Jung. Not saying that's the best idea for your cardiovascular over 3 rounds, but still, I just think the sheer strength of William Knight might be able to defend a few of those takedowns. And on the feet, I do think the power of Knight will eventually get to Jung. I do think Jung starts to go... he doesn't fall off a cliff after the second round, but he does have just a natural cardio where he will get tired as the fight progresses. And if William Knight can really bring pressure to Jung, he's going to force him to fight a lot. And if you do force Un Jung to become more of a volume fighter, he will start to fade as the fight progresses.
Disagree.
And then I favor William Knight. That's fine.
Hard disagree, because if you go back in that same Alvey fight, he definitely won the third round. He didn't win the first. He didn't win the second. He had a knockdown in the third, and his output actually went up. His output actually went up, and he had a lot of control time in that fight. So, for me, it is a tough one. I mean, again, if Un Jung has very good takedown defense and he can start to land a lot of volume, pressure William Knight. Knight's the type of guy that keeps his hands a little low and his head up quite high, and when he moves in, he's able to shoot quite well, but it's a tricky one. I do like William Knight in this fight, but I agree with you. If you could take like the under 2.5, maybe that's a pretty good one to go with. But I am going with William Knight. Again, I just think the volume, I think the pressure, it's just going to cause issues for Un Jung. Could I see Jung winning this? 100%. He's a favorite. The fans have him to win. But I'm going to go with the underdog in this one, in William Knight. I'm really eager to see what people are thinking about this one down below in the comment section. It's a great fight. This is one that was on the short list for possible fight of the night. But we're both going with William Knight to get the win. Really looking forward to this card. You have 15 fights total. Co-main event, Arnold Allen taking on the man himself, Super Sadiq Yusuff. And in the main event, got Kevin Holland being a good guy, stepping in on short notice to take on Martin Vettori. So really looking forward to it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say. Let's get into it.